Look at those two guys over there taking photos.
Wait, we're picking. Oh, he's picking. We're all picking. What are we doing?
You introduce us.
Oh, welcome to Climbers for Christ. Climb hard, love harder, right?
Love Harder
podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Dean Olin.
And Eric Askren. And we're sitting here in Eastern Washington. It's finally warmed up a little bit, about 48, almost 50 degrees. The wind is howling.
Yeah, it's blowing.
And
gusts of 50.
Yeah, it about blew me over a couple of times. Yesterday I was getting in my car after work, and it was pelting me with rain and wind.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, the door, I was just getting in and the door slammed on my arm.
Oh, man.
That's why I haven't been climbing.
You could do a workman's comp because you're still on the job site.
I should do workman's comp. Right? And with us today, we have Shaefer. Shaefer, what's your last name?
My last name is Church. Funny enough.
Church, yes. Yeah. That's right. I was going to wax eloquent about that, but then I thought, no, he's heard all of those.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor that. But Shaefer Church, you are representing El Buho. Now, wait a second. For our United States friends, notice I didn't say North American friends.
There you go. Way to go.
For our English-speaking United States friends, it's not El Buho?
Yeah, the H is silent, so it's El Buho, which means the owl
the owl
in Spanish. Yeah, and thanks for having me on the pod, guys.
You've never heard those either.
No, never heard owl jokes or anything.
I've never heard this. Why the owl? Why is that name?
Yeah, so it actually comes. Great question. Yeah, so the Buho or El Buho is located in El Potrero Chico, Mexico. It's a climbing ministry coffee shop, and it was originally started by this couple named Andrew and Gina, and they were trying to figure out a name for it. And as they were walking through the canyon, I think it was Gina, I believe, who saw an owl flying through the canyon when they were trying to figure out exactly what to name this thing. And there comes from a verse in the book of Isaiah, which God says, "Look, I'm doing a new thing in the desert. The owls perceive it. I'm making rivers in the wastelands." And Potrero is actually kind of in a desert, even though it has mountains. So, that's where the verse.
Whereabouts exactly is it located? I know it's by Monterey. Yeah. Is it right outside of Monterey? How far south of the United States border into Mexico?
Great. So it's 3 hours south of Laredo, Texas. About 45 minutes outside Monterey is a little town called Hidalgo, which, is this really cool small town. And also in this town that is, just sitting there are this massive canyon, massive mountains, amazing rock climbing called El Potrero Chico, which means the little corral in Spanish.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. That's a fun fact right there. You can use that.
It is a fun fact. Yeah. Did they have little corral? Did they have little horses there for their little corral? Or?
No, but I think it's there's a technical term for this, but it's a canyon of mountains that kind of makes this big circle. So when you enter, and Pochero's kind of like the doorway into this canyon of mountains, so you can pass through Potrero Chico, and all of a sudden you're just surrounded by these mountains in northern Mexico. And I think because of that, it kind of looks like maybe a horse corral. So it's called the little corral, because a little ways further down, there's a bigger opening, and that's called El Potrero Grande, the big corral.
Oh, big corral.
Big
corral.
Watch me just get something totally wrong in Spanish, and someone's going to listen to this
Spanish already. Dean's already speaking Spanish here. He's got El Potrero Chico and El Potrero Grande.
There you go.
Buho. And El Buho.
Yeah, the owl.
So tell us, we were connected through Climbers for Christ through Eli. Yeah. So what is the connection between the coffee shop and Climbers for Christ? How does that work? How do they work?
Is it just a coffee shop, or do they serve meals too also? And maybe flesh some of that out.
So,
is it a hotel?
El Buho it is a coffee shop. I mean, essentially that's what it is. but it's located, like I said, in El Potrero Chico. And so it's a Christian ministry as well. The people who originally started it were serving down there at a school as missionaries, and Andrew was a climber, and they wanted to do something for the climbing community. And at the same time, there's this community called Mission, which is about 15 minutes away from El Potrero Chico, Mission, Mexico. And they didn't have a middle school. I mean, this community started off as essentially a squatter community. Originally, they didn't have roads or power. Now they have both of those, thank God. But they didn't have a middle school at the time. They also didn't really have a church. And so there was a Bible study there that was happening, but there wasn't a school. So this church wanted to start a school there. And so Andrew and the Buho started a coffee shop where the funds from this climber coffee shop, which was meant to be a hub for rock climbers, because at the time, I mean, now Potrero has grown so much, and there's camps and there's restaurants geared towards the climbers. But at the time, there was maybe 2 camps, and that was it. There's nothing for climbers other than that. So the Buho started as a coffee shop for climbers that raised money for the school in Mission, and now that school is open, and we still support that school.
Oh, right on.
We help with that school, and it has over 40-something students, 50-something students. One of our board members for the Buho is a teacher at the school. She helped found the Buho. Her name's Jan. She's amazing. And so yeah, so basically the Buho exists to love and serve the climbing community and the local community. One of the main avenues we do that is through serving awesome coffee to climbers. Another is through our work at the school. So there you go. There's our bird's eye view pitch.
So you said it's like a Christian ministry. All the Christians I know, they always got their hand out. They're asking for something.
Oh, Lord. Don't even get me started.
Well, like I'm always asking you for stuff, and I'm a Christian.
I came over here.
You're always asking me for stuff.
I am. Some people would call me Christian. I ask people to ask my neighbor. They'll tell you what I am.
Nice.
But I just came over here and asked you for a shirt that I'd left over here accidentally. Yeah. So
I gave you a shirt and a pair of socks.
So
So the question out of that, they give basically their profits they give for the school you mentioned.
Yes.
What's like who's giving of their time and resources to make that happen? Because it doesn't just happen accidentally.
no.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So that's actually, we're partnered with Climbers for Christ, and it's a really important partnership because Climbers for Christ helps kind of support us and is our partner in the U.S. That's a 501c3 approved non-for-profit, which is incredibly helpful for us to have that link and that connection. And also Climbers for Christ helps us to get the word out about people, because we always need people to come down to the cafe and to work. So we're open about 6 months out of the year, the winter climbing season, and a little bit on each side of it. And we need people to go down there that are stoked to, not only stoked to climb and serve up some coffee, but stoked to really love people and serve people, because that's kind of the main thing, right? Can you for 6 months, really serve not only the Hidalgo Mexican community, but also the international climbing community. So, I mean, CFC has been with us since the beginning, or Climbers for Christ has been with us since the beginning, and it really has helped us in a number of ways. Huge partner for sure.
So the servers.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
So the servers, I hear they get paid like union wages plus big tips, right?
If I had injured my arm down there, I would still be on leave, paid leave.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the arm. There you go, bringing that arm story back into it. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's all about me.
Come back around. Yeah. We're gonna make at least one more reference to that. So we have incredible donors in the States, and we actually raise support for the living wages of our staff. But man, when our people come down to serve at the Buho, they're serving to be essentially missionaries for 5 to 6 months. It's really it's a massive service of like.
So they need to raise their own support and be prepared to give from themselves, not necessarily
absolutely
receive.
Yeah, so they have to 100%. They have to be ready to either save up money or fundraise. We help with that process, and we have people that give generously every year. But yeah, people to raise their own support or save money, so that while they're in Mexico, the funds we make at the Buho don't go back towards the staff in any capacity, but go towards the continuation of the Buho, but also towards our school project as well.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
essentially, so in a way, the people serving, the baristas and the people serving at the coffee shop, they're funding the school, right? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And then the people helping
Yeah.
them to, get there and take that time off of life.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
obviously they're living, but
Well, at least that part of their life.
that part of their
Have
life.
a life in a different way.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So I was down there serving for 4 years. So it was my life, while I was down there. Now I serve on the board and go down a few times or 2 or 3 times a year. But yeah, I had to remind myself when I was watching. Sorry, that's my dog barking in the background right there. Yeah. So I'll try and.
He just wants to be part of this conversation because he hears.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I brought her over from Mexico, so she's actually speaking Spanish right now.
I thought that I heard
Yeah.
a woof woof in Spanish.
Yeah, she can roll her R's. It's pretty impressive.
But
when you're washing dishes at the Buho, you remember this is to hopefully share the love of Christ with the climbing community, but also it's for the school, it's for the students.
Yeah, man.
There was also someone connected with El Buho that had to do with rescuing dogs down there?
So there's actually another non-for-profit down there, and I'm blanking on the name right now, which is such a bummer. That they're incredible. I'm blanking on the name of it, but they rescue dogs. They help climbers adopt dogs. They do surgeries for dogs for free. I'm trying to remember what it is right now. I bet I could Google it real quick.
That's pretty cool.
That's okay. I was just I had heard about it, kind of here.
Yeah, but we have a good relationship with them for sure.
If a person wanted to donate, how would they do that? If they wanted to donate money, hard cash.
Yeah. So we are currently in the process of updating our website right now. So I would actually send you to Climbers for Christ website. So if you go to Climbers for Christ, their website, and then you go to the give page, there's an El Buho icon right there that you can click on and you can give.
That's the one that has the owl on it.
Climbers for Christ. That's right, the owl, El Buho. You got it.
Look at that! I'm speaking Spanish.
yeah. Everybody's learned something today.
And then
this is an educational podcast.
It is an education. This is an educational podcast. And then, if people are interested in volunteering, who do they need to reach out to or contact, or how do they go about that?
So there's 2 main ways they can do that. One, as we're updating our website, they could send an email to elbuhocafemx@gmail.com, elbuhocafemx@gmail.com, or send us a message on Instagram, which is also elbuhocafemx.
Okay, super. What else should you want to tell us about El Buho?
Oh man,
we're going to get into the Potrero Chico. Amazing climbs, some of your own.
I can also rep Potrero. That'd be great. Yeah. Man, I'd say the Buho is. I mean, I think it's such an amazing, and I've reflected on this because I work in Texas now. I work at a church here, and so I've been away from the Buho full time for close to 2 years. And one thing I've reflected on a lot is it is such an amazing opportunity to really just serve people like how Jesus did, and to meet with people from all over the world, and in a very just like humble, loving way, get to know people and serve people. And everything you do at the Buho is service related, right? You're helping people out in one way or another, and you're loving people. And so it's such a real way of doing that.
Can you do it for do you have to do it for 5 or 6 months? Can you do it for a week or 2 or 3 weeks? Or is there like a minimum amount of time y'all want?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So majority of the time we ask people to come down for 5 or 6 months, whatever the season dates end up being. Sometimes people do a half season, 3 months, they can come down. But here's the deal. If you are wanting to go check out the Buho, so sometimes a hard part of working at the Buho is you're kind of on an island. You're kind of the only English speaking. We have Mexican people as well, come from Mexico to serve at the Buho as well. But sometimes it can feel isolating because there's not a lot of Christians around. And so when other people come down to just encourage us, or to just say, hey, how can I help out for a couple days? Or just, hey, I want to climb with you. Or, that is huge. So if people just want to come down and visit and hang out, that's awesome. But hey, if you got some time and you want to spend a couple months down there, then we could probably plug you in a way that can really, where you can really be a part of it for sure.
Okay, super.
That's a great question.
We need to find out more about Shaefer here and his his sendism.
Mm-hmm.
How hard he's sending, his stoke, and other things.
Yeah. Yeah, he should tell us a good story.
Yeah.
And be really careful to not let truth get in the way of a good story.
Do not let truth get in the way of a good story.
Okay, there you go. That's awesome.
Well, wait. Just like with the other ones, before you get started, how about this? Before you get started with stories, tell us a little bit about your spiritual life. Do you have a spiritual life? Are you connected religiously to any spiritual tradition? And tell us a little bit about your background and all of that religiously.
Oh no, I love that. That's great. Yeah. So I went to
we don't make any assumptions here.
I like that. There you go. So I originally am from New Mexico and kind of the Colorado area, and I pretty early on, kind of in my high school years, my faith became real to me of following Jesus, and that came about through really just reading scripture. I've always really felt connection to God through scripture. Went and studied the Bible actually in college, and that's what I got my undergrad in. But all through those years, I fell in love with climbing and was really into climbing, especially once I graduated college. It went from being a hobby to being something that I really was into and loved. So when I heard about the Buho, I thought that was crazy because I loved climbing and I loved coffee, and I really wanted to, serve people, love people, do the Jesus thing, and got an opportunity to. And then when I heard about the Buho, I was like, that doesn't exist. Like a coffee shop ministry for climbers, like that's made up. Surely not.
There? Are there any used books?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we sell books.
I'm selling my house and I'm moving to outside of Hidalgo, Mexico.
Okay.
Perfect. Great. Hey, awesome. Come on down. So yeah, man, my walk with the Lord has been, the priority of my life for quite a long time now. And I'm super stoked it actually brought me. I love that it intertwined with my passion for climbing, and the two worked together, which is pretty great.
That's crazy. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like God wants good for us, and
yeah.
No, he wants to stick little needles in us.
Like a voodoo doll.
You just pull out pieces of hair. And stuff.
That too. Yeah. Both.
That's so good. Okay. Now, what should he tell us about climbing?
He should tell us a story, an experience down there.
Yeah. Oh, yes, and don't let the truth get in the way.
Like how
okay.
he just narrowly escaped getting his head put in a suitcase or something like that.
Something like that, or had to use his head for the off width was too wide and he had to jam his head.
Yeah, or the chimney
was
had to take his helmet off.
Had to take his helmet off. Yeah, one of those types of things.
Okay, tell us the story.
I love it. So, man, there's a lot of good stories to pull from here. It's hard to pick a one. I guess,
Are you a short single pitch type of climber or a long multi-pitch climber?
I'm definitely I like both, but if I can get a long multi-pitch, that's kind of my jam. Most of my favorite routes in Potrero are a little longer, and that's the beauty of Potrero, right? Is there's these bolted routes that go up hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of feet up, great rock. So you can climb bolts the whole way. You can be lead climbing, and you get really, really high up. Maybe one of my favorite routes is Time Wave Zero, which gets to the top of El Potrero Chico. 23. That's a 23 pitch route that you follow bolts the whole way. So super.
Wait,
sweet.
Time what?
Time Wave Zero.
Time Wave Zero.
Yeah.
What's it go at?
What's it go at?
So the hardest pitch on it is a 12A, but you can French free the crux if you're like, oh man, I really want to climb this route, but there's two moves I can't do. It's like, all right, well, you can actually pull through it. So it's a 12A technically, but if you can pull 11 a move, so you could get to the top of it, and you know how to you know have your systems dialed. Yeah, you could do it.
Do we know how to French free?
We're half French when we climb.
I am half French. I start speaking French when I climb typically.
And I don't know where that term came from, by the way. I just said that. I hope that's not like a bad offensive thing to say. Yeah.
I hope it's offensive.
But,
I hope it's offensive
okay, cool.
to all of our French listeners.
We aim for aim for offensive podcasts.
Yeah.
We do aim for offensive podcasts, particularly toward the French.
If we don't offend
There you
someone,
go.
we're not doing anything.
But I will say a story about one of my favorite single pitch routes is this. There's this really cool feature in Potrero that kind of goes up. It looks like a wave that's crashing down on you.
Wow.
That wall is called La Ola, which is Spanish for the wave. So there's another free Spanish one.
La
And that was
Ola.
one of my first. One of my first real climbs that I loved in Potrero was La Ola. There's a route there called Tufa, the price of one. But Tufa, like a rock feature.
Funny.
And it's this overhung. Yeah, right. That's the story. Yeah.
Wait, are you a dad?
No, I'm not. No. But that was a
great
good
dad
dad joke, though. Yeah. I'll write that one down. We'll save it for the future. But I was climbing that with my buddy Seth, and at the top, that's the wave part, so it gets super overhung, and it's an 11C, and I was working really hard to get above that wave, and I was giving it everything I got, and I was hanging on to the tufa, just grunting and like really making this thing work. I was kind of new to Potrero, still learning the rock, and I finally pull over the edge of this thing, pull over the lip, and I can't find anything good to clip the chain. So finally, I find this this huge whole jug that was just kind of hidden just to the right of the anchors. So I grabbed that jug and I'm like, oh, thank God. So I turned down to yell at my belayer, Seth. I go, Seth, oh, dude, because he knew I was struggling. He was encouraging me. And I was like, oh, hey, man, I finally found like a good hold. And as soon as I say that, my mind, by this noise that's made just next to my face, is brought back to the fact that I've been warned multiple times to climbing in Mexico in the desert to watch out for rattlesnakes. What I didn't know then is that these rattlesnakes are gray and they blend into the rock. If you want to go climb in Potrero in the winter, you don't have to worry about them as much. This was on the edge. This is the shoulder season. So I yelled down at my partner, and then I just hear this this little knocking noise, and it wasn't mad at me. It was just shifting, and literally an inch from my hand, an inch.
Oh my gosh!
Didn't see it at all. Was this curled up rattlesnake? So I just let go, and
of course
took
you
a small
did.
fall with, and I just I was like falling, and then I just yelled, "There's a snake there!" Except for I might have said a couple other words in the midst of that sentence. But
I'm sure you
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. And we were both, no way. So then we were just sitting down there figuring out, how do we clean this thing, right? We got all these draws up on this wall. And there's a snake at the anchor.
I bet that snake was gone by the time you got back up there, though, wasn't it?
So we waited, 30 minutes. We waited a while because we climbed some other routes, and then we came back to it, and we're like, all right, hopefully this thing's gone. So my partner Seth, who hadn't climbed it yet, gives it a go. And this is the funny thing is, it's on the top of this lip, and you can't get to the point where you can see the snake unless you just work really hard for it.
Oh my gosh.
So Seth's working really hard to potentially bail. And he looks up over the edge, and he's like, sure enough, the snake is still right there. So he actually, looking back, this is crazy. It was just chilling. He just kind of moved over to the side. And he made kind of a long tether, clipped the anchor, and then just kind of staying a couple feet away from it, just real quick, cleaned the thing, and I was able to lower him. But I think that's kind of what ended up happening.
Oh, man.
I ended up seeing, double-digit rattlesnakes, so sometimes the stories blend together. But
did you listen?
It's something like that.
Did you listen to our podcast with Andrew Light?
I did, actually. So that one caught my eye because the snake, I was like, oh, geez. So, I served on the rescue team in Potrero for a number of years. That's one way I got involved, to kind of help love and serve that community. And we had a couple that were snake bite situations. So
that's the real deal.
Do they fly him out or what?
There's actually only ever been one helicopter rescue in Potrero. And there's a great story on that on the Sharp End podcast, if you want to hear that story. But This was
We don't do
no,
plugs for
we
podcasts.
one person we helped down.
Shaefer?
We carried one
Shaefer,
person down. Yeah.
Dean's reminding you that we don't do plugs for other podcasts.
We can bleep that out. We can bleep that out. Sorry, they haven't sponsored us. They haven't given us money for the promo, so yeah, we're not allowed to talk about them actually. Sorry. I'm an amateur. It's showing. But yeah, we had to carry some people down.
Yeah,
For
there
sure.
must be
Yeah,
there must be some
yeah.
anti-venom there in Monterey.
So yeah, no, I believe that in Hidalgo they have some sitting around that they use. So the rescue team essentially always just would get people from the high up places and then get them to an ambulance, which could get pretty close. So that was what we'd do.
Oh
Yeah, 'cause
wow,
that can be serious. Well, like Andrew's
Oh,
story,
absolutely.
holy smokes.
And about
Oh yeah.
this last year, it was 2 years ago. I nearly stepped on one on McBee over here. It's a pretty steep, hikey hill that people use for training in the mountains. I nearly stepped on one out over here, and then I nearly stepped on one just right before that out at the Feathers.
Yeah.
I was just running laps, traversing around some basalt. Went around a corner, and there on this nice piece of shiny, warm, sun-warmed basalt was another rattlesnake all coiled up, because we've got a bunch of them around here. And
Oh wow.
yeah, that's enough to just put you off your climb.
I know. I feel like I'm a bad rep for Potrero here, just talking about rattlesnakes. But in 4 years, I only saw 12. Which is not helpful.
Right. Anybody though that climbs in the west, which is most people if they're climbers, they will get out to the west. Even in the east, though, there's poisonous snakes.
Cottonmouths of New York.
Yeah. And throughout Canada as well as Mexico.
So it's nothing new.
No, it's nothing new. Throughout all of Latin America, and that's just the. Remember, there was that one climb I was going up. Remember, out at wherever, and I got to the top, and I pulled up over it, and there was a snake. We have bull snakes here, and they look.
Oh yeah.
They look just like rattlesnakes, only their tails are different. And I climbed up, and I fell back off, and you thought I had fallen or something.
Yeah.
And
because you screeched.
I did screech because it was right by my face. And
that's what you do, though.
And I got back up, and it was like slithering away. I stared at it. It was slithering away quietly, and as it went away, its tail was right there, and it was just a nice perfectly pointy tail. Which was just like, it was scareder of me than I was of it.
And it was laughing to itself.
It was
yeah.
It was laughing. It was.
You walked away. It's like, nah, yeah. Well, man, I saw so many. One time, too, I climbed up to the top of this ledge in Potrero. There's a route called Evil Shenanigans. It's a 3-pitched 11B. And I got to the top of the 11B. Evil Shenanigans. Evil Shenanigans, which is 11B, 3-pitch. Really fun. And I was climbing it, and I got to the top of the 11B, and I was belaying up my partner, and there was this massive centipede, which these centipedes in Potrero and in Texas, where I currently live, also in the climbing areas around here, they're around these massive things that look gnarly, and if they get on you, it actually can really hurt. And
do they
jump as I'm belaying up,
like on your face?
so it was moving around and it was jumping on the rope, and so I'm belaying up my partner, and the whole time I'm watching this centipede, like
it's jumping
my
on
eyes
the rope.
are on it. It's moving around on the rope, and they're not like, these things move. And their skeleton is on the outside of their body, so they're actually kind of tough too. These things are like, honestly, I think they're straight from hell, if I'm being honest. But
they are evil.
Yeah, they are evil. As I kept my eye on it, I'm belaying my partner, and when he finally gets up to this, it's a pretty big ledge. When he finally gets up to me, I go, "Hey man, watch out for that centipede right there." And he looks and he goes, "Oh shoot!" and takes a step back, and he's like, "Yeah, and the snake." I was like, "What?" And curled up right next to my rope is a curled up rattlesnake once again, and I was so focused on this centipede that I did not even clock the snake that was probably 4 feet from me.
They were in cahoots. Yeah. They were in cahoots.
I was about to watch like a battle. That would have been pretty epic if I'd seen a fight.
On the rope in there, and the centipede thought the rope was a snake, and the snake thought the rope was a centipede.
And they were like going at it.
Yeah.
yeah. They were both really scared of each other.
Climbers for Christ came up with this saying, "Climb hard, love harder." Actually, Calvin Landers did.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? Climb hard, love harder.
It's a great question. Climb hard, love harder. Well, I love that slogan for one. seeing as climbing is a big part of my life. If I'm gonna devote time and effort and energy to climbing, I should also devote time and energy and effort to go out of my way to love people and serve people. In no way for me did that sing more true at the Buho than, like I said, I got heavily involved in the rescue team, and unfortunately, I assisted in a few recoveries in that area of Mexico, body recoveries of people that passed. And, to me, climb hard, love harder, you make a choice, if you're really going to love people, especially if you're loving people in the name of Christ, you're going to love them even post-mortem, right? Like, it doesn't matter what happened or what the circumstances are, you're going to serve them no matter what the situation. So, not trying to bring the mood down or anything, but yeah, I think that rings very true. And I think it's a good slogan for sure.
Yeah, that is very real. The mountains are something we've talked about. I'm not a big fan of thinking that the mountains don't care about us or don't like us. I don't like that idea. I do like the idea, though, that the mountains are simply the mountains, and the mountains do what mountains do. And they will release a person from them as much as they'll hold on to them. And sometimes people are released from the sides of them.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that.
It's never my strength that gives out. It's the rock pushing me off.
That's exactly what I think.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the rock. It didn't want me on there anymore. That's
the rock.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, it was time for me to go.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a good way. That was a lot better of a climber than I am. That's really great.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah,
I like it.
So you've probably had a chance to climb with all different types of folks down there. Any interesting international climber aside from Mexican that you climbed with that was like, this is really interesting and entirely different than what you had anticipated?
Oh, wow. I love that question. That's great. I mean, one is just getting to climb with people from all over the world is super cool, right? Like being in a place that's kind of a climbing mecca, people come from everywhere. And, you also, it's El Potrero Chico, so you see some pretty big names come through. I would say one that sticks out, and it's awful that I'm blanking on his name. There's a very famous gentleman who does stuff in the mountains who's blind, and he actually climbed Everest blind. And
Eric Weinheimer or Wine something.
That sounds right. And I did not climb with him while he's in Potrero, but he climbed a couple of really big multi-pitch routes, and he had the assistance of some amazing, awesome climbers who were his partners on it. But that was super cool to see because he's kind of he's a little bit more famous, which is it's kind of fun. But then also just seeing that level of stoke, my dog agrees, that effort. So that game for sure was a big deal.
Eric, Weihenmayer. Weinmayer.
There we go.
What?
I'm glad.
Like, what about him doing that time waves? No, not time wave, but the wave. Like, he wouldn't have no idea. Well, I guess he would have heard.
La Ola.
He would have heard the rattlesnake.
La Ola, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of.
He would have heard it, but also he went up with partners as well. I have a friend who climbed down at Potrero a lot named Walter, who was one of the guys who would climb with him. So he had people climbing with him that were right next to him that would be like, "Hey, bring your left foot up, bring your right. There's a hold over here." And from what I heard from him is, man, this guy. I think one of the reasons he's able to do what he does is because he trusts the partners to be like, all right, cool, yep, and he grabs the hold and he just trusts it. And
wow.
Cool.
I worked at an indoor gym, and there's a couple of guys couple of blind guys that would come in there in their 70s, wow. And they started climbing in the gym as just like a therapy, and then they both loved it, and so then I think Spencer and I. We offered to take them. They'd never ever been climbing outdoors, so we took them out on real rock, and it was super. It was a highlight in my climbing.
That's
career.
Amazing. Yeah, no kidding.
It was really cool.
That's huge. That's huge. And that was one of the cool things about the Buho too, is there are tons of people in those communities, Mission, Hidalgo, El Carmen, these towns around El Potrero Chico, that have looked up the rocks their whole life. They've seen climbers come through and they've never climbed. And so every once in a while, there are really amazing local guides. So we never wanted to take business away from them. But every once in a while we would, and some people did this more than others, we would do like free climbing day, where it was like, hey, if you want to come climb, we'll take you climbing. So, and also the school I mentioned earlier, every year or a couple times a year, we'll take students from that school climbing on the rocks. And, hey, those people don't come from far, just a few minutes away.
Yeah.
But getting to actually teach them and let them experience why everybody comes from so far to climb there is pretty cool.
That's super cool. Hey, Shaefer, have you ever had an experience where what you were trying to do just did not go? You weren't able to send, or you had what many might think of as like a catastrophic failure or some type of break in the system, either inside of yourself or in other ways, that was kind of like a learning moment or something like that, or an aha moment, or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look back this is where my mind went. I don't know if this exactly answers your question, but when I look back on my first season, coming down there, the job I had had previously, I felt insecure in that job a lot, just like I wasn't enough or couldn't do it well. And when I started climbing a bunch in El Potrero Chico, when I would get far above my last vault or piece of protection or whatever, I would sometimes just assume I'm going to fall and think, oh, this is inevitable, like I'm freaking out and, this is a hard route or whatever. My partner that first year, I mentioned him earlier, his name was Seth. We climbed together a lot. I called him run outs. You'd call them fun outs, which I don't know. I didn't consider that fun, but, it kind of shed a light.
Fun outs.
Yeah, it's a fun out.
I'm adopting that.
I am too.
Yeah.
We're going to use that.
Thanks, Seth. Yeah. So I learned something about myself from this, getting real freaked out above the bolt, that, something I learned from that, getting scared over and over again, or bailing because, or just falling or down climbing because I didn't think I could do it. It was this kind of, helped me reflect to see, oh yeah, like me not thinking I'm good enough or can do something well enough, that had less to do with my last job and more to do with just something in me that doesn't feel like it's up for the challenge. And so, that helped a ton though, just climbing hard and Seth and others pushing me to climb harder, and routes that were, challenging with some fun outs. So it was really cool because it pushed me to say, okay, like I have to learn that I can do this, and I can rise to the occasion, and I can do those challenging things.
Oh man, no kidding. That is a good word.
Mm-hmm.
I was visiting with one of my climbing heroes last year, maybe
That me?
year and a half ago. You are one of my climbing heroes. I've got some amazing climbing heroes, and Dean is one of them. I've learned so much from Dean, like literally. I should do a whole podcast on that. But one of my climbing heroes, right? What not to do? She said one of the things that she talks about is trust and commit. Is what she talks about. Those are her words that she says. She goes, you trust that what you're about to do is going to work. Trust that where you're about to head, there's going to be another hole, another foot, that there's going to be a new option, a new possibility, that you're going to do it. Trust and then commit.
Hey, we can plug.
Do it.
We can plug for our own podcast, because that's one of the podcasts.
Trust and commit.
The gal you interviewed.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, boom. Yeah.
I like what she said.
That was Kitty Calhoun.
About like God has given, God gave her body, her physical body, and her talent,
yes.
And like climbing is a form of worship.
Yes, when she's using her body,
I totally agree,
to the fullness of what she's capable and able to do so, she is exercising this gift of God, and in doing so, it is a form of adoration and worship to her Creator. It's a lot like when you get like somebody bakes you something, or like when Grandma bakes you a pie, and you're just like, you're chowing down because it's so delicious. It's Grandma's pie, right? and you're getting a delicious pie, but Grandma's getting all this amazing glory and this heartfelt
Wow, I love that.
warmth of what she's made because you're enjoying it. And so Kitty, I don't want to misquote you, Kitty, but basically that this is her body is a gift to her, and when she is enjoying it, the person who gave it to her, or in this case God who gave it to her, is like getting stoked out of the fact that she's like living it up and enjoying this gift. And the more she works it, the more that it's enjoyed, the better the worship and praise.
And on that,
I love that.
And on that, like if you don't encounter failure, you're not tapping into your full potential.
No, exactly.
So pushing in and discovering that point, pushing against, and failing every now and then.
Yep. And I'm really grateful actually we had this conversation because it reminds me about trust and commit. Trust that it's going to go. Trust you can do this. And now commit and do it. Quit farting around.
Yeah.
Commit to fun outs.
Commit to the fun outs.
Commit to the fun outs. Yeah.
Lord have
And it's
mercy, I've
just-
done some run outs.
Oh gosh.
That one there in
Yeah.
Red Rock. Holy
And
smokes.
life can
Can be a big run out.
Oh boy.
Oh,
There
my
you
Lord.
go. That'll preach right there, as they say. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
And the trust
You
and
say
commit
that
thing.
'cause
I mean,
you're a
that
preacher.
translate. I do. Yeah. I'm a pastor. So, and that trust and commit thing, and that's there too. You got to trust and commit in life, even when you're on a fun out. I like it.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you need to tell us about El Buho, or
Man, I guess my last thing, if you're a climber, this was the thing for me that made me go and serve at El Buho, is I thought to myself that, I'm a climber who wants to serve people, and who I follow Jesus, and that's the most important thing to me. So there's not a whole lot of climbers who are willing, I think, to move to Mexico for a season of life to love and serve people like Jesus. So if you're one of them, it's a pretty niche thing. So what made me go down is I was like, yeah, this is a pretty niche thing, and I'm willing to do this, so I should do it. And then I loved it, and it was incredible.
Yes.
It was such an amazing, formative experience. So if you're out there and you hear this, and you know somebody who'd be interested in that or wants to do that, please let us know. Get a hold of us.
Absolutely. They can get a hold of pod at climbersforchrist.org. They can get a hold of Climbers for Christ on the webpage. They can get a hold of the podcast via Instagram, Climb Hard, Love Harder. They can get a hold of us through the Climbers for Christ through Facebook or Insta as well. And they can get a hold of El Buho through Instagram, or probably, do you have a Facebook presence?
We do have a Facebook. Yep, same thing.
Yep.
El Buho Cafe.
Facebook
MX.
presence, as well as probably just Googling El Buho, ELBUHO, and Mexico, Potrero Chico, and it'll come up, and they can link into you in 1,000 different ways.
That's right. There you go. That's amazing.
I love it. Oh, man. Thank you so much, Shaefer, for connecting with us.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you think?
No, thank you guys.
It's good.
I think we need to go down there to El Potrero Chico and
Come on.
send something. We could swing through. What town do you live in?
Oh, I live in Brownwood, Texas, which, we got a bunch of climbing within a couple hours drive, and then thankfully we got Lake Brownwood, which has some boulders. So there we go. We'll go bouldering.
Bouldering's not climbing.
We can't just offend the French. We also have to offend all of the boulders.
But the boulders, yeah, there we go. Just right before we close, real quick, I want to say bouldering's not climbing.
You did ask him in the beginning of the podcast, if he prefers single pitch or multi pitch. He didn't say super short single pitch. He said single pitch. So you excluded
free solo short pitches.
Yeah, free solo.
How long? Okay, I want to know, how long are we going to be able to continue to offend boulders before they rise up and take over?
Well, they've already outnumbered us, I think.
They do outnumber us.
Absolutely. But you know what? If you guys climb real high, I think you'll be all right. They won't get to you.
That's true. That's true. Wait to outclimb them. Just climb higher. Yeah, so they can't reach us.
We're getting old.
We are getting old. Oh, you just had a birthday. It's kind of gross, getting so gross and old. Okay.
I think it's good that, I think we accomplished our goal on the podcast.
I think so too.
Encourage people to
thank you guys.
reach out.
Yeah, man. Shaefer Church, thank you so much for
thank you guys.
visiting with us and talking with us, telling us your stories. And there's probably 1,000 other stories. You're going to get off here and be like, oh, shoot, I wish I'd said that or told that story or, all that stuff. So,
and if you're up in ever up in the Pacific Northwest,
say something to us. And
hey, I will, absolutely.
Yeah, you can
Love
be our
that
rope
area.
gun.
We have.
I don't know about that.
Right outside our little town here, there's the best crag in North America.
It's not.
There we go. All right. Sounds like a plan. There we go. Let's put it on
It
the
is
calendar.
the best crag.
It is the best
No,
crag
thank
around
you
here.
guys. I know. Hey, there you go. The best crag because it's our crag, right? I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man. God bless you, and man, keep climbing. Climb hard, love harder. Love you. Bye, listeners. Love you too.
Yep. Thanks for listening.
Love you all. Thank you.
Bye.